Hey guys, welcome back to this week's poll here on Comic Relief Cast. I'm your host Jake.
And I'm Josh. Hey guys, got a question for you.
What are we reading?
And I'm glad you finally didn't ask me that. And before we get started, guys, you're going to see that we took about 2 weeks off of not doing reviews. Basically, they just come down to excuses. 1 week, we just couldn't get around to it. And then the second week, it was just too damn cold in here to record. We didn't want to stay here. We're freezing our buns off. So we decided, you know what? We're going to take the comics home, read them, and if you guys want to check it out, I put a link in the description below. Check our Facebook page. On there, you will find our rankings and ratings for all the books that have come out in the past 2 weeks. Just scroll through them. You'll find them. But this week, on this episode, we are going over all the new Marvel books for this week. So what we're going over is Age of X-Men, Apocalypse and the X-Tracts, #1. Star Wars Age of Republic General Grievous, #1. X-Men, the Uncanny XMen Winners End, #1. Tony Stark Iron Man, #9. Old Man Quill, #3. Shuri, #6. The Magnificent Ms. Marvel, #1. Age of Conan Belit, #1. Winter Soldier, #4. Avengers No Road Home, #5. Amazing Spiderman, #17. The Punisher, #9. And Wolverine, The Long Night, #3. So we're going over quite a bit, and we're going to do it a little bit differently. We're not going to go too much into depth. We're just going to tell you guys our kind of basic general thoughts on each book, and we're going to move on. So with that, Apocalypse and the X-Tracts, #1 by Tim Seeley. Yeah, Tim Seeley, and artist is Salva Espin. And if you guys, we say it every time, if you've been reading the Age of X-Men stuff, it's pretty much more of the same. This one's kind of weird. I wasn't feeling this, but if you guys are feeling this series at all, if you're liking this stuff, I'd say go ahead and pick it up because it's right along the lines of the same other Age of X-Men stuff. This is just not something that's up my alley, and to see this version of Apocalypse for me is a bit jarring.
It's a little all over the place too. It's definitely trying to follow like that psychedelic 70s kind of vibe.
Yeah,
like
it feels like it's supposed to be
Yeah.
some kind of Charles Manson, almost 1969 type thing.
Yeah, but I will unveil the rating.
Sure.
All right. I'm giving this book, because I can see X-Men fans liking it, but for me, it wasn't for me. I'm going to give it just a 1.98
Okay.
Flarkins.
I'm going to go ahead a little higher than you, 2.2 Flarkins. I didn't hate reading it. It's just not something I care too much about. Moving on to Age of Republic, General Grievous, I think it's still by Jody Houser, and the artist is Luke Ross. And I thought this was going to be a little bit more of maybe Grievous's origin, get a little bit more insight into how he thinks, who he is, his past, all that stuff. You don't get any of that. This is honestly a character that I think a lot of Star Wars fans wouldn't mind a little bit of extra information for, and we don't get that in this book, but what we do get is a quick look at what Grievous looked like before he basically turned himself into an android. So for that, I thought it was pretty cool, but for that, the rest of this, it wasn't great. The art's fine. It feels very much in line with the other Age of Republic stuff. I'm going to give this one 2.0 Flarkins.
All right. I read the Uncanny X-Men Winter's End, #1. It's written by Sina Grace, and pencils are done by Nathan Stockman. I feel like with this book, if you're reading Iceman, you're going to like this book. But Iceman, as I said before, is not something I really dig. Like, I don't really dig the Iceman series. So it wasn't like it was really bad. It's a big book. But it just follows an older version, a future Iceman coming to warn new Iceman, story that we've told millions of times before.
Isn't that basically what X-Men Blue was?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, and it just the pencils and the writing just wasn't for me. I'm just going to give this book a 2 Flarkins.
All right, moving on to Tony Stark Iron Man #9. And the writers on this are Dan Slott with Jim Zub, and the artists are Valerio Schiti and Paolo Rivera. And I gotta say, the first few issues of Tony Stark Iron Man really started off strong. I really liked it, and then since then, this whole escape thing, it's become a little bit of a drag. I'm kind of waiting for this story to move on, but in this issue, I feel like we kind of start to get that. We start to get a little bit more of the punch. We're starting to finally get the unraveling of this story and where it's headed to, and I felt like the end of this book, it was right on the precipice of really hitting it home and really, just delivering what we all want from this because of the time we've invested. Unfortunately, it came just a little bit short for me. I still think it was solid. It was definitely better than probably the past 2 or 3 issues, but it's still, I'm thinking that the next issue, this 10-issue arc is what it's going to end up being, is going to be the real one that drives it home and makes you go, okay, this is what this whole story was about. But this one in particular, by itself, I'm going to give 2.6 Flarkins.
I'm actually a little above you. I'm at 2.75 Flarkins.
Okay, and your thoughts?
I enjoyed it. I thought it was a fun read. I've been kind of the same way that you were. It started off really strong, then it started dragging. and Dragon. And then this one kind of picks it back up a little bit. And I was kind of the same way with you. Like, there's a part where I'm going, there's something that could happen that could make this really good, and it doesn't really happen. But there's a chance that number 10 could pick it back up.
Right, it touches on it, but it just doesn't give us that punch.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna move on to Old Man Quill, issue 3 by Ethan Sachs and Robert Gill on the art. And I haven't really cared too much about Old Man Quill. I didn't really care about Old Man Hawkeye. I love the original Old Man Logan. Once they decided to spin that out into a series, didn't really care for it. But this one, it's just fine. It's bringing back a lot of faces, but they're just old now, you know, and it doesn't. I think that whole shtick is just worn off for me. I don't think that the surprise is there. The punch isn't there for me anymore. So, you know, this one's fine. You know, they talk about how it was 50 years ago since they did this, so I'm going, holy shit, you know, is Quill in his 70s and 80s now and he's still doing all this stuff? That seems a little bit outside the realm of possibility for me, or believability. But the end of this book does have something kind of fun in store, but it's not something that's enough to keep me wanting to read, so I think issue 3 is probably going to be the last issue I read of Old Man Quill. I'm going to give it just straight down the middle, 2.5 Flarkins.
All right, I read Shuri number 6 is the beginning of a new story arc. It's written by Vita Alaya? I don't know.
Ayala.
Yeah, and artist is Paul Davidson. That is an easy name I can read. All right, I was been wanting to kind of jump on this for my personal collection because I like the Shuri run. Started the new story arc. She teams up with Miles in New York. Still very good book. This issue is not my favorite so far by it, but I do enjoy this a little bit more than I am enjoying Black Panther right now. The pencils were a little jarring at times, but sometimes it was really good. I'm going to give this book I'll give it 3 Flarkins.
Okay. Yeah. All right, moving on to the magnificent Ms. Marvel, issue 1 by Saladin Ahmed, and the artist is Minkyu Jung. If you guys are looking at that cover right now going, that cover is not for me, don't worry. That the interiors of this book, it's a different artist, so the cover is not indicative of what you're going to be seeing in the pages of the book. Actually, the inside of the book is a lot cleaner looking and a lot less exaggerated. But the reason we wanted to kind of go over this is because Saladin Ahmed is also writing the new Miles Morales Spider-Man series, which we thought he did a great job on. He wrote that really great Spider-Man annual back in, I think, November, December maybe. I don't remember. So we're like, okay, we really like this writer. We're going to check this out. And it's an interesting take. Do I feel like somebody who's never read Ms. Marvel could jump in on this and be okay? Yes, because that is actually what I am. I've never read Ms. Marvel solo titles. The only things I've read is maybe Champions or any crossover stuff. So I think you can jump in on this, but you might be a little lost on who some of her friends are, the names of her parents, things like that. When they're said in passing and you haven't been introduced to them yet, you're going to be a little lost. But if you go with the flow, you're gonna be able to kind of know who's who and what's what. And her friend, I just assume there's a good friend connection there, and there's another friend, and you start to be able to put the pieces together. But actually, I thought it was a solidly written issue. It's not my favorite thing. It didn't really stand out to me or jump out to me the way that Miles Morales did, and especially the way that Annual did. But I gotta say, as somebody who's not really a fan of Kamala Khan and somebody who's not really a big fan of Ms. Marvel or even in the Inhumans in general, this book's fine, and it grabbed my attention, and I found it to be a pleasant read. It didn't, that's my favorite saying, blow my hair back or anything, but I enjoyed myself reading.
Yeah, it was the pencils were good. It's nice and clean, and it's definitely wasn't a bad read. It wasn't my favorite one. I think there's going to be some people out there that's going to really like this book, and I think there's going to be some people that are just going to be kind of neutral to it. For me, I'm kind of lukewarm on it. I do enjoy it, and I'm not a huge fan of Kamala Khan either, but I mean, it was a good book. And then I agree, the part that makes it a little off-putting is that there is some characters in here that you will not know unless you've read Ms. Marvel, and that kind of like that. But you can put the pieces together on who they are.
Yeah, so I'm kind of in that neutral, but leaning a little bit more towards the lukewarm area. I liked it fine. It's not something I can see adding to my collection personally, but if you are a fan of Ms. Marvel, I would assume this is probably a really good entry into that world. Or if you're looking to jump on this character, this is probably a really good entry point, and you can kind of go backtrack later if you feel the need. But with that, I'm going to give this one 3.1 Flarkins. I think it's fine, and I think it's good, and it's an issue 1, and I always like issue 1s as a jumping on point.
I would give it 3 Flarkins.
Okay, moving on to Age of Conan Belit. Guys, I don't know how to pronounce this character's name. I'm so sorry, but I keep saying Belit.
There's an accent above the O.
I know, it might be Belit. I don't really know. But it's written by Teenie Howard, and the art is done by Kate Nimzek. And what it does is it kind of spins out of the Conan stuff going on by Jason Aaron, or possibly even the Savage Sword stuff, which I am reading both. Sometimes I can lose track on what's happening in which. But this is really just an introduction into the character. If you're looking at that cover going, wow, that looks a little scandalous and sexy, I might want to pick it up. The art is not like that on the interiors at all. So if this cover is attractive, it's going to get you to pick it up, but don't expect the interiors to look this good. But you get an introduction into who Belit is, her background, where she comes from, why she becomes the character that she becomes, but it's not all that intriguing. It's not all that gripping of a story. It is something that I feel like I've seen a few times, and so it doesn't really feel original. But again, it's harmless. It didn't offend me in any way, but it also did not get me to want to pick it up, and I am getting the other two Conan series. So with that, I'm going to give it 2.8 Flarkins.
All right, I read Winter Soldier #4 by Kyle Higgins and Rob Reyes. I'm still really enjoying this series, and this has a very exciting, very intriguing ending to it. And with that, I'm going to actually give it a better grade than what I was originally going to, because the ending kind of has me intrigued for the next one.
Which is actually the last issue of the next one.
Yeah, I know. And the way this ends, this kind of ends where you're kind of like, oh god, it sits you on the edge of your chair kind of deal. I give it 3.5 Flarkins.
All right, pretty high praise. Moving on to Avengers No Road Home issue 5, written by Al Ewing, Jim Zub, Mark Waid, and the interior art is done by Sean Isaacsi. And if you guys have been reading Avengers No Road Home, you know it's a weekly comic coming out for 10 weeks, and it's you know what it is if you're already reading. If not, I'm going to tell you this right now. Pick it up. Go find those previous 4 issues. Get this 5th issue with that awesome Immortal Hulk cover on it, because this is a series I'm really enjoying. I know, Josh, I think you're really enjoying it, right?
Oh yeah, I'm really enjoying it.
Okay, so
for a weekly title, it's actually keeping me intrigued on like some 10 weekly issue.
Right, something that you would expect to dip in quality as time goes on. Actually, this is just getting more and more exciting, more and more fun for me. But the thing is, I might be a little biased because I really enjoy some of these characters that are in here that are not main players in the Marvel Universe, like Hercules, for one. I love the character of Hercules, always have.
Clint Barton, Hawkeye.
Yep, Rocket, Hulk, Wanda, Vision. I mean, you get a lot of great characters in here, and then this one especially.
And also Monica Rambeau.
Monica Rambeau, absolutely. And this one's just a lot of fun. It's really cool. It really feels like no holds barred storytelling from Marvel. They're like, look, we're just going to do what we want to do, kind of screw what's going on in the overall grand Marvel universe, and we're just going to tell this really cool, interesting story. And I'm having a great time reading it. I look forward to it coming out every week, and I'm very excited. Even by these has great covers consistently, and I would do say I can see this book being somewhat along the lines of Incredible Hulk issue 180, whereas I expect maybe issue 6 to be a lot more like Hulk 181.
There's no first appearances, but there is something new that happens at the end of this book.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I do, and I've been enjoying this run. I think it's a good run. The story seems very solid, and with it also having multiple writers on it, that usually seems a little scary, but this one actually seems to be well thought out.
It benefits from those multiple writers, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, so with that, I'm going to give this one 3.7. 3.8. I'm going 3.8 Flarkins. I'm really enjoying the series.
3.8 Flarkins. I'm right there with you.
Moving on to The Punisher #9 by Matt Rosenberg, and the artist is Szymon Kudransky. And this is, War on Bialya Part 4. I think Part 5 is next, and it's going to kind of wrap up this thing. But if you guys read the Punisher War Machine stuff, this series has been dealing with the fallout of that, and Frank just kind of exacting his vengeance, kind of getting back to his roots on why he does what he does. He's just kind of he's paying back in kind, or making up for his loss, or just the way he's kind of messed up in the past. And I'm really enjoying this. It's just a full throttle, high testosterone, full adrenaline rush kind of book, and it's Punisher at his core, at his roots. And again, I've been saying it like I have before, but this is what makes the Punisher so great. He's a dude with no superpowers, but this book shows you right here why he is not to be trifled with, and I'm really enjoying the Punisher. 3.5 Flarkins.
Nice. So we also read The Amazing Spider-Man 17, which is the first part of The Hunted.
Written by Nick Ramos. Yeah, Nick Spencer and Humberto Ramos on the art, sorry.
And it's actually, so far, it's a very solid issue. We've been kind of dissing on The Amazing Spider-Man past few issues, except for the last issue, which we kind of...
With the Black Cat was a really good issue.
But this is actually seeming to be a very good little story arc that's about to come up.
Yeah, it seems like they're kind of trying to play up the importance of this as being akin to something like Kraven's Last Hunt. Like the importance of this is really being propped up by Nick Spencer and whoever's editing the Amazing Spider-Man run, because we had issue 16, then 16.HU, which is a Hunted Prelude. Now we got issue 17. We're also going to have a couple more .HUs. It's going to all... so it's almost like Amazing Spider-Man's getting the main run, and it's also getting its tie-ins, but it's still within the Amazing Spider-Man title. But what's going on in this book is, if you've been reading, you know what's going on, rounding up a lot of villains that have animal monikers, and the things that happened in some of the past books, I was like, why is that not playing into this yet? And about halfway through this book, I go, okay, everything's falling in line now. All the pieces are falling into place, and I'm really enjoying this. I'm very intrigued by this book. That last issue with the Black Cat, I thought was really well done. And this book, I'm very excited because it feels like Spider-Man, true to form. It feels like Kraven's got a new lease on life, and I'm really enjoying Kraven in this because it's a way I haven't read him before. But there's also another Kraven that is very much traditional Kraven, and everything that's adding up and everything that they're setting up here, I'm really excited to read.
Oh yeah, and you also gotta enjoy that cover where Kraven's sitting on a chair, giving you like, "Hey, call me."
Yeah, not only that, but I feel like I've been looking at this cover for 2 months, so it's like, oh, I thought this was an old issue already, but with that 3.35 Flarkins for me.
I'm a little bit higher than you, 3.45 Flarkins.
Okay. And the last issue we're going to go over for this episode is Wolverine, The Long Night, and it's written by Benjamin Percy. Artist is Marcio Takara. I miss Ben Percy on Aquaman, by the way. I just have to say that. Or no, it was Green Arrow he was doing, right?
Yeah,
I miss him on Green Arrow. But, so if you guys have been following along with this too, you guys know this is based on a podcast, and this is issue 3. I think it's going to be out of 12. And what this is just kind of a mystery book. This, I will say, out of the 3, this has more Logan in it than the past 2 issues, but it's still not a book told in the... from the perspective of Logan. It's about these people who are hunting him down, and as you read more and more, you're putting the clues together, and we're kind of left wondering as an audience reading along, like, it's a whodunit. It's basically a whodunit. There's a lot of different angles and there's a lot of different players on the chessboard here, and you're trying to wonder how everything fits together, but it's a murder mystery, and we as the audience are trying to solve it, and it's a really good, well-written, smart book.
I like a good comic book that sometimes that doesn't actually feel like a comic book. And this one definitely doesn't read like a comic book. It just has comic book characters in it. Mm-hmm. It reads more like a murder mystery novel, and I really dig that, and that's what I find to be so enjoyable about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So with that, I'm going to give this one 3.75 Flarkins. I'm really enjoying it. I would absolutely recommend picking up Wolverine The Long Night.
I give it 3.8 Flarkins.
All right, and out of this week, Josh, what would you recommend people who are picking up? Maybe they've got a limited budget. Maybe they can only maybe get 4 Marvel books this week. What would you recommend? For me, I'm going to recommend Avengers No Road Home. I'm going to recommend Amazing Spider-Man, Wolverine The Long Night, and depending on what character you lean towards, I'd say either the Punisher or actually Tony Stark Iron Man.
I go Avengers No Road Home, Spider-Man 17, Wolverine Long Night, and then just because I thought it was fun and it's a new story arc, Shuri.
All right,
Shuri
guys.
6.
Well, that is all we've got for you on this episode for this week. We really do apologize for the past 2 weeks, kind of shirking our chores, but hey, we're only human, so forgive us a little bit. But let us know in the comments below what you guys think about any of these books. Are you going to pick any of them up? Are you listening to this past the day that you've already have, and you agree with us, disagree with us? Let us know in the comments. Let's have that discussion. Please hit that like button or hit that thumbs down button. Feel free. Either way, get some traffic here. Share this with your comic reading friends. And if you're not already a subscriber, guys, hit that subscribe button. We're really sniffing at the heels of 1,000, so we hope you help us get us there. And be on the lookout for the DC episode. Should be on the channel very soon. Thank you, and take care.
Bad mother Flarkins.